I am going to get into it. Today's topic is 5 signs you are trapped in a self-help cycle of overwhelm. And this is something I really spend a lot of time looking at, especially in my group programs, because if you have done a lot of courses, right, if you've maybe been in other memberships, the Put Yourself First Sisterhood is open right now, for example, you will probably find that you've consumed a lot of content in the past and you've possibly not gained the results that you wanted to from all this amazing knowledge that you are receiving and learning in personal development. And so if you are working on yourself, if you've been dedicated to personal development, I would say for at least 6 months or more, but you're still not moving forward with your goals, or you're still not feeling any different within yourself, you could very well be doing one of the following things and falling into one of the following traps. And the reason I want to talk about this today is so many amazing women, ambitious women, dedicated women are here in this space, in these circles online, learning, listening to podcasts, doing courses, and they want to grow, they want to make change. They're not seeing that change in their life and they're not feeling able to take that action. And a big part of that could be this, what I call self-help cycle of overwhelm. So with that being said, if you are doing one or more of the following, then it's very likely that you're stuck right now and you're feeling trapped. Number 1, you consume a lot of self-help content. And specifically, if you rarely spend a moment in silence, you're probably trapped in that cycle. When you are commuting, when you're walking the dog, when you're having a break at work, you are consuming content. So you are scrolling on Instagram, you're listening to a podcast, you're listening to an audiobook, you're looking at helpful videos on YouTube or whatever the case might be. If you fill your whole day with content, or at least, like I would say, more than 2 hours of content a day, more than 2 hours of personal development content, whether that be a podcast, a course, scrolling social media, it's very likely that you're feeling overwhelmed, because when you think about it, there's this constant stream of information that's like flooding your nervous system. Your body, your mind has a certain capacity to withhold information. And even in your day-to-day life, when you're driving your car, when you're walking down the street, when you're headed to the gym, when you're sorting out, you're cooking dinner, these things that we do every single day that are normal, that are part of our routine, even when you're doing those things that feel like a no-brainer, you don't have to think about doing them, your unconscious mind is actually still working and is still processing all this information. Think about when you're in the car, how it feels kind of easier when you're an experienced driver to switch off and to be almost on autopilot. And we forget that when we're on autopilot, we're on autopilot for a reason. We're on autopilot because we have an unconscious mind and that is constantly aware of and is processing information. For example, your unconscious mind is like looking, processing all the information on the road and is like, everything's cool, nothing's happening, Whereas if someone walks into the road, your unconscious picks it up straight away. It sends that stress response that makes you more alert so that you can brake, so that you can, swerve out the way, do what you need to do. And even when you have something like that, where you're cooking or you're cleaning or you're driving, you're doing normal day-to-day things, your brain is still active in a way. And if you never have a moment of silence in your day, your nervous system is constantly receiving information whilst also dealing with all of that, whilst also having all that unconscious processing going on. You're flooding it as well at the same time with a podcast, an audiobook, a course, a this, a that. So that's number one sign that you're trapped in that self-help cycle. If you don't have a moment in your day where you are not consuming, and this might not even be necessarily all self-help content, you might just not have a moment in your day where you're not scrolling or looking at a screen or have a TV on in the background or listening to a podcast. There's not a moment in your day where you're not receiving information. That is the number one sign that you are trapped in that cycle of overwhelm and you are actually not gaining the results you want from that content that you are consuming. Sign number two, you are consuming all this self-help content, listening to all the podcasts, doing courses, maybe listening to audiobooks, looking at all these tips and tricks on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever it might be, but you aren't taking time to implement it. So you, in the past week, if we take this as an example, in the past week, you might have listened to 3, 4, 5 podcasts, let's say. You might have looked at God knows how many, reels or TikToks or whatever it might be. You might be listening to an audiobook. You might be scrolling through a course that you've bought or whatever. But how much of that are you implementing and are you actioning? Because if you aren't taking action and implementing, like I would say 70 to 80% of what you are consuming, then again, you're not going to be getting results because you're absorbing information and you aren't using it. So you're receiving this information in, your mind is having to process it all this information you're bombarding it with, and you're not then taking the step to master that tip or master that area that you're learning about because you aren't actioning it. And something that I feel we have in society is this, we almost convince ourselves now, because there's so much information available and because there's so much knowledge out there, I feel like a lot of people convince themselves that, I already know that, I'm already doing that. Manifestation, I've heard of that, loads, I've read all the books, I've listened to all the podcasts. And even if that person isn't actioning, isn't actually practicing and living the principles of manifestation in their life, and therefore is not manifesting the goals that they want, is not moving forward, it's almost because you're consuming the knowledge and you logically, intellectually understand it, your brain almost convinces you that, that's done. I know that now, like I don't need to think about it, which is really interesting. And I'm just sat here thinking now, like when I listen to a podcast or when I do a course or whatever it might be, something I really try to focus on is what is my biggest takeaway. Like, I know I'm jumping ahead to like a solution here, but whenever I checking in with clients, whenever I'm checking in inside the sisterhood, I'm asking, what is your biggest takeaway? What are you taking action on? What are you learning from this? You know, what are you taking to implement in your life so that you can actually reap the benefits of this work? Because if you're consuming and listening and receiving information and not taking action, you're overwhelming yourself with this level of information that you're then not getting the benefit of. And that's when you stay stuck in that cycle. And that leads me on to sign number 3. And I guess if I had like a cute whiteboard to show you right now, I would draw this as a cycle, because step number 1 is you're constantly consuming and you don't have a moment of silence in the day where you're not consuming self-help content or content in general. You're then step number 2, sign number 2, you're not taking action and implementing what you're learning, which leads me on to step number 3. You're feeling confused and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling conflicted, because what's probably happening, if you're someone who listens to a ton of podcasts or watches a ton of YouTube videos or looks at Instagram Reels or TikToks, you're going to come across people, many different people of many different expertise, many different areas that have conflicting modalities, right? Conflicting ideas and a lot of content as well, because everyone in, you know, from this side is like vying and fighting for your attention and your attention span. They want you to stop scrolling. They want you to look at their video or listen to their podcast. They're creating these like polarizing pieces of content with these really extreme rules or really like bold, outrageous like statements of like, this one manifestation ritual changed my whole life and I manifested £1 million from doing this one thing. And so you think, it's again, your brain is like, okay, like maybe I should be paying attention to this, I'm watching it, I'm looking at it. But then you could scroll again a few videos down and have someone else saying the exact opposite. You know, one person could be like, why journaling helped me manifest £1 million overnight. And then you scroll a few videos down and someone else is like, journaling is over. It's all about moon rituals now. It's all about whatever, like EFT or whatever it might be. People have this content that is presenting these rules, these regimes, these like must-dos. And so if you're like trying to find information, you know, almost in a really positive, pure, like innocent way, you're just trying to figure out like, well, what's going to work for me? Like, I don't know, because this person said journaling is the best thing and this person said EFT, but this person said EFT doesn't work because they think you should do this instead. And it's like that overwhelm is going to start to set in when you're consuming a lot of content from various sources, because it's leaving you further and further conflicted, because the opinions of these people themselves are conflicted. And that can create this sense of searching for like the magic pill. how many of you, and you know, I've been guilty of this in the past too, how many of you have tried to find the magic pill, right? The magic formula, the magic tool, the magic step that is the thing that is going to completely revolutionize your life and completely transform your career or your finances or your relationship or whatever that area is for you right now that you're working on. When we have these bold, like we're constantly bombarded with all this information, a lot of it being very like intentionally attention grabbing, it's training our brains to be constantly seeking the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And that is going to leave you feeling overwhelmed because you're then not being taught or encouraged to figure out, well, what's best for me? Like, what's going to work for me? You're actually being pulled in all these different directions of basically other people's agendas of what has worked for them or what they think is the best, you know, what they're selling. You know, if you're someone who has a course on journaling, of course you're gonna say that journaling is the best thing in the world. Just like if you know, I use EFT a lot. I use EFT a lot with clients. I use EFT a lot with my in-group programs inside of the sisterhood. EFT is our topic for this month. Of course I'm going to talk about EFT, but the difference is I'm not going to talk about it from the lens of like EFT is the number one thing and everything else is shit and ignore everyone else because EFT is the best thing ever. But there is a lot, especially on Reels and TikTok, where it's designed to stop your scroll. It's designed to have you go, oh my God, like this is the best thing ever. I need to listen. There's a lot of language out there now that creates this pressure to find this sweet magic pill that's suddenly going to change everything for you. When the reality is, you've got to figure out what's best for you. But when you're in this stage of the self-help cycle of over-consuming all this different stuff, you're going to feel more overwhelmed and more confused. And therefore, you're not going to be taking action. So again, moving on to sign number 5, you're outsourcing your decision making and what next action you should be taking to gurus or experts on the internet. And when you're hearing these thought leaders, these different coaches, these people saying, do this, no, don't do that, that's the worst, do this instead, you're gonna experience more overwhelm, you're gonna experience doubt, you're gonna experience comparison, because you're receiving advice from someone based on what's worked for them. And especially I've personally seen in spirituality too. So it definitely happens in personal development overall. But we find in spirituality and like more of the wellness spiritual side of the internet, we all love a morning routine, right? Like we love talking about a morning routine. We love talking about a ritual or a tool like a spell or a manifestation ritual or whatever it might be. And there are some people who it's literally their full-time job to do this work. Like, for example, as a coach, it's my full-time job to help other people do this work. But as part of that, it also means that I am constantly in this world, in this work. If you work 9 to 5, if you have kids, if you are studying, if you have health considerations, and so your energy, you're not, a full day looks different for you. There are so many factors that play into what you actually need and what is right for you in terms of your self-help, your well-being, that I often find people who are consuming all this self-help content are seeing an example of a perfect morning routine, or the dream like manifestation ritual where every single day you're doing this hour-long thing in front of the mirror, and you do this, you do this ritual, you do this journaling, you do this EFT, you do this, you do that, you do this. And I think we're forgetting, kind of like we do with fitness, which is a good counterexample, these people, like myself included, we are spending all day thinking about this stuff, right? Like, it's my job to self-help, and personal development is my job. And so, of course, I'm going to be thinking about it or doing things slightly differently to one of my clients who is running a business in a completely different field and has kids and, has other responsibilities to juggle, because I'm not going to give her the same plan, like the same tools, the same way of doing things that I need to. In the same way that, you could go to a really strict like personal trainer who is like, you need to go to the gym 6 days a week, you need to eat broccoli, chicken and rice for lunch and dinner every day, you need to only drink water, you need at the weekend to never go out with your friends and never drink alcohol, and then that's what you need to achieve your goals. When in reality, if that personal trainer is working full-time in that industry and has all day thinking about fitness, thinking about what they're eating, whatever, they're going to have a different plan. Like, they're going to do things differently to someone who has to like pick up their kid from school at 3, or like doesn't, in going back to personal development, can't have like an extravagant morning routine or do this extravagant journaling and everything in the morning because like their kids are awake and they need to get them ready for school. And when you're outsourcing your personal growth to someone else's idea of perfection, of what they think is best, that's going to trigger that comparison, because what I see so many women doing is thinking, well, I don't have time for that, so what's the point? And again, if you're overwhelmed, if you're constantly bombarded with this perfect ideal of what it means to work on your mindset, of what personal growth means, and you're like, well, my life is so different from that, you're not going to do it. And so, moving on to sign number 5, and I'll recap in just a second. Because you're over consuming content, because you're not able to action it, because you're confused about how to action it, because there's a lot of conflicting information and you're searching for the magic pill, because you're outsourcing your decision making to gurus on the internet who are presenting a branded, Instagrammable version of the perfect lifestyle, and that's triggering your comparison and keeping you further away from taking action. That leads us on to sign number 5, which is you are doubting yourself, you're feeling crappy, you're thinking, what's the point? I may as well not do any of this. Clearly, this isn't going to work for me. And so when you're feeling crap, what do you need? If you're not trusting yourself, what are you going to do? If you're lacking energy, motivation, drive to take action, what are you going to do? You're going to look outside of yourself for some sort of boost, for some sort of motivation, even if it's temporary. And I think that brings me back to the point I was saying before around, it's almost like what I see now is the dopamine hit that people get from consuming self-help content. It almost tricks their brain into feeling that they're making change when it's this temporary boost of dopamine hit that they're getting because they're considering their dream life, or they're considering a goal, they're considering change that they want to make. But because they're not taking action, that boost of energy that they're getting, of dopamine that they're getting from self-help, is temporary, it's fleeting. It's not going to last because they're not creating that lasting change by implementing and taking action. And so because they are then looking outside of themselves for that boost of motivation, of high vibe energy, or whatever it might be, they are all the way back around to step number one, to sign number one. So sign number one, consuming a ton of self-help content and having no time in their day of silence or of just being with their own thoughts. Consuming a lot of sign number two is consuming a lot of self-help content but not actioning 80% of it, absorbing all this information and not using it. Sign number three is not only consuming a ton of self-help content, but actually consuming a ton of self-help content that contains conflicting information that creates this sense of seeking the magic pill, because everyone is selling a magic pill. This one ritual manifested my ex back and all this other crap that I see when I'm looking through these apps. Sign number four is you're outsourcing your decision making to these gurus, to these experts, and because they're presenting a perfect ideal of what personal development is, of what spirituality is, of what manifestation is, of what mindset work is, you're feeling overwhelmed because that's not realistic for you. And your lifestyle where you are right now feels so far removed from where these people are presenting that you can be. That gap feels too far, and so you go, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to leave it. And then sign number five, completing the cycle, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling crappy, you're doubting yourself, you're comparing yourself to these people on the internet, and you're not taking action, so you're feeling frustrated and discouraged about your goals. And so what do you need when you're feeling discouraged? You need external motivation, you need external boosts of positive energy, and the cycle continues because you then think, oh, if I can just find the right podcast or the right this or the right that, then this will be the magic pill that will finally get me to take action and finally be the thing that helps me manifest my goals. And so if you are currently doing one or more of those things, what I call it is the self-help cycle of overwhelm, like I say, it's that cycle of overconsumption, of feeling too overwhelmed to move forward, and then relying on self-help content to give you an artificial boost and a feeling that you've moved forward when in reality you've not. And I want to help you get out of it. So let's talk about that. I want you to think of someone that you personally admire. And this person might be an expander for you, which is someone who has shown you that what you desire is possible. So this could be, if it's your career or your business, someone in that industry. It could be someone who you personally know, who you admire in your life, who is modeling the lifestyle that you want to live. It could be a mentor you've worked with, anyone, a public figure, whatever. Do you think that that person has achieved or has manifested, has created that goal that you desire by always looking at what other people are doing, or by staying home and scrolling all this content on these apps, looking for motivation, looking for the next, looking for the magic pill? I don't think they did. In fact, I'm going to say I know they didn't, because there's a big difference between investing time and energy intentionally in yourself and taking action and implementing that knowledge versus that self-help cycle of overwhelm. And I found this in my life when I'm moving forward. What I notice I'm doing is I am laser focused on a few people who I resonate with, a few people who I follow or I'm working with. And I'm talking 2 or 3 people even. I'm in, for example, I'm in a group program right now, and this is for my business, I am focused on that. I'm focused on that coach, his teaching, his method, his XYZ. And I know that I am learning from him. I'm investing time, energy, and money into working with him. And I am implementing what I am learning. I'm not absorbing this information and going, oh, that sounds good. Cool. Yeah, might give that a go. I am coming off that call. I am watching that video. I am going through that workbook and I am taking action. I'm implementing what I'm learning. It's that, for me, it's I'm always thinking, how can I shorten the time span between receiving information, letting it sink in and letting it resonate with me and land with me, and then taking action on it. Because if you're in that self-help cycle of overwhelm, you're consuming the information and the action taking is doesn't exist, or it's all the way over here, off the camera, as I'm showing you right now if you're watching the video. I'm always thinking and focusing on shortening that gap so that the time between me receiving some information and learning something and taking action on it and giving it a go and letting myself be fucking messy with it or shit at it or figure it out as I go, that time, the more I can shorten that time, the more results I'm going to get. So that's one thing I really want you to consider if you resonate with feeling trapped in that cycle. The other thing to finish is bringing the focus back to you, your goals, your life, what is right for you, what your version of success is, what tools work for you. This is such a focus of my work because, like I used that example before, I am not giving my client a cookie cutter version of my own personal development and saying, this is what worked for me, here you go, like off you go to do it. I am constantly, even inside the Sisterhood, which is a membership community where it's all, you know, workshops and workbooks, and, you know, you're still self, you know, it's still self-help, like you're still working through it yourself. The way it's structured, the way I structure my work with all of my clients and members is client-led. You are the expert of your own life. The power is in your hands. You define your own version of success. Here is my toolkit. Here is the 6 years of personal development mastery I have of 10 years of which I've been doing it myself, 6 years of which I've been mastering sharing it with other women and working with other women. Here is my toolkit. I can pick out things and recommend them, and I can say, I feel as an expert that this is going to work really well for you. But at the end of the day, it's my toolkit, and you will take and figure out what resonates most with you. Because it's about you. It's about what works for you. It's about what you enjoy. It's about what you can stick to. Remember, in the fitness example, the best workout you can stick to is the one you enjoy, is the one that feels best for you, is the one that you can make time for in your week. So my biggest intention for you, if you're just watching this or listening to this episode, or you're joining the Sisterhood, or you're working with me in some other capacity, one-to-one, whatever it might be, is that you bring the focus and put the power back in your own hands. And especially if you're stuck, get off this cycle, this self-help cycle of overwhelm, so you can take what is going to work for you, take what resonates and implement it and see results. It's like that's what I want. If you're not feeling different, if you're not taking action, if you're not changing your life for the better, what is the fucking point of this? Like, your time is so precious. Your resources that you're investing are precious. And when you're investing in yourself, whether that be the time you're taking to listen to this episode, or whether that be the finances and the time you're going to take to, say, join the Sisterhood, which the doors are open now for the rest of June until the 3rd of July. I want that investment of you, of your time, of your energy, of your resources to reap ROI, which in a business terminology stands for return on investment. If I'm putting resources into this, I want to see something back. And with personal development, with the Sisterhood, with our work together, that's, are you feeling different? Are you actually making change? Are you taking action? Are you moving forward with your goals? Are you in a different place now than you were 3 months ago or 6 months ago? Because if you feel like you've consumed all this self-help content, you've read all these books, you've listened to podcasts, you've done courses, whatever, and you're looking back over the past 6 months and you've not moved forward to the capacity that you wanted to, I really want to help you get off that self-help cycle. I almost imagine it like a hamster wheel, because you feel like you're gaining momentum, but you're not really moving forward. And we can't be having that. Like, I want you to be moving forward. I want you to feel like you are consciously, intentionally, every single day, like, creating your dream life, because that is the standard to which you deserve to receive. So, do you want to stay stuck in the self-help cycle of overwhelm? Or do you want to start moving forward and seeing real progress with your goals? Because if you resonate with what I'm sharing today, and if you're ready to break that cycle, get focused on you and manifest your goals, manifest your version of success, I would love to have you in the sisterhood. The doors are currently open until the 3rd of July, and we are welcoming new members in throughout June. We've already had some beautiful souls join us, and the more the merrier. So the link is in my bio on Instagram, or if you're listening on the podcast, the link will be in the show notes to join us. If you have any questions about the membership, there's tons of inclusions, and the beauty of it, I feel, is it can remove that overwhelm, because there are so many topics covered inside, and there are tons of resources. Like I mentioned, that toolkit where it's like, take what resonates for you, give it a go. If it's not for you, leave it. There's something else that's going to be better for you. To me, that's the beauty of it, because you get that dopamine hit of that, like, variety, of that knowledge, of that learning, of, you know, there's videos, there's video masterclasses, there's live calls, there's a Facebook community, there's community and, like, good vibes on the call. You're connecting with other like-minded women. There's tons of that. So you're getting that, you know, if, like me, self-help and personal growth is like a hobby of yours and a passion, you're receiving that joy from that, and you're getting the accountability and the support to actually use it and actually take action and move forward with it. And for me, that's the beauty of it, because we get to do both. You get to receive, you know, you get to listen to podcasts, you get to read books and love this world, because it is amazing and inspiring and exciting. And you deserve and you get to use that information to set your own goals and to take action and to move forward and manifest your dream life. You get to have both, and it involves stepping off that self-help cycle of overwhelm so you can start moving forward. So I hope this has been inspiring, helpful, maybe eye-opening. I often get DMs like, are you in my head? This is crazy. I totally resonate. So if you feel like this is where you're at right now, I'd love to hear in my DMs on Instagram. Or if you're on the podcast and you're not on Instagram, you can also always email us feedback at support@cathorrocks.com. And if you are interested in the sisterhood, check out the link. There's tons of info on what's included, FAQs, like all of that stuff on the sign up page. If there's something on there that's not covered, or you want to have a personal conversation with me, just DM me, because I'm all ears and I love to chat with you and connect. So with all of that said, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you very soon.